Michael George, who's passed away. And he had the phone was right behind my head, and my mom ran to the phone. She got up and ran to the phone and picked it up, and then noticed I wasn't breathing and I was purple, like I was done. I was dead. I wasn't responsive. I wasn't breathing. Nothing was happening, and I don't know who got me going, but they turned me over on the arm of the chair, and they thought I swallowed my tongue or something. I don't know, and they they pounded on my back and stuff, and they got me going again, but not before I did a lot of damage. I had to relearn a lot of things. I was never the smartest kid in the world, that's for sure, but I had learning disorders, dyslexia. I had some significant academic issues all through school after that, and then when I was in university, I had I went to a counselor and says, well, what's going on here? Why can't, I know all this information, but you put me in front of a test, and I can't do it. I can barely pass. But having a conversation about the knowledge, about having a conversation, talking to the teachers, talking to their students, I did really, really well. I knew all the information, but put me in front of a test. It's energy. When you're an empath and you're stuck in a room with 30 other students who are freaking out about this test and questioning their knowledge and this and that gets absorbed into an empath. So I was having troubles. I had to isolate, go to a different room, and I could write the test, and I could, blow past it, no problem. Boom, knock it out of the park. My nursing exam, I had to be on the far side of this gymnasium with earplugs and earmuffs and the whole 9 yards, so I could be completely distracted from their energy. But it was really, really hard. I mean, once I learned that I had to block everything out in order to focus, I did really well. But I had to learn that. But let's get back to my death, because this is interesting. When I died, I remember everything. Now, I'm going to refer to the Matrix movie when Neo first went into the Matrix when he was conscious. It's that loading platform when everything is white. And the only thing you saw there was the 2 chairs and a table. I think there was a table there. Anyway, that's what it was like. Anybody that has had a death experience and came back, everything was completely white. Like, completely white, just like that. There was no floor, there was no ceiling, there was no walls, there was no seams, there was nothing. Everything was white. The only thing I saw at first, when I looked up, I saw my mother looking down to me. And then instantaneously, I'm looking down upon them, my mother leaning over my body, and just my mother on a bed, leaning over me. And the only thing I felt was the concern that she had. That was it, concern. That's the only emotion I felt, was concern. Now, when I looked around, it didn't feel like anything. Everything it wasn't hot, it wasn't cold. It was very, very light, but it wasn't painfully bright. Sorry, a slight distraction from Maya. The only emotion was concern. There was no other feeling. Everything was white in every direction. It was peaceful. And I don't know who else was there. I don't recall conversations, but that is Maya lapping up some water, and I bet she's going to have her breakfast now. So anyway, what I saw, I'll never forget. And every time I look around, in my mind and I see that and I try to remember that, I try to pick up and see if there's anything else. I don't recall anything else. Any other memory is being withheld. I don't know. But when I came back, I was like a 3-year-old. I was emotionally and socially a toddler again. And I had to relearn things. And I was programmed. And I had memory from my childhood. Sadly, I kept. But it made me who I am today. Not that I survived it, but that I healed through it. And I've had multiple near-death experiences. I was in my 20s. I was in a land-based search and rescue and marine search and rescue. I was navigating and my life. I spent 15 years as a first aid attendant. I had 5 OFA level 3 unrestricted first aid certificates in my life, and I was land-based search and rescue, did caving and mountain climbing and all these things. And I grew up on Vancouver Island, and I learned how to navigate. And I was in scouts, and I was in the reserves. I was in the cadets first, and then I was in reserves. But I talked myself into going into the reserves. I talked people into allowing me to go into the reserves when I was 14 years old. So when I was 14 years old, I went and did my TQ1, TQ2 infantry course in the Canadian Scottish Regiment in Nanaimo on Vancouver Island. The commanding officer was Major Cameron, and I had asked if I could do it, and they said, well, I'd have to get the okay from my parents. So my parents, when I was 14 years old, signed off and said, yep, okay, go ahead. I signed off on it, and I went into the reserves, and I did my course, and I passed, barely. And then I went to Fort Lewis, and I did helicopter APC training. I carried a C2. That's when they had the FN C1A1 and FN C2A2 or whatever the heck they're called now. I can't remember. And I carried the C2, 14 years old. It was really exciting. I romanticized about the stories my grandfather told me when he was stationed in England. And he, during the Blitz, I guess, and everybody was stationed in houses all around the neighborhood, right? And those are groups of men here and there all around the neighborhood. Anyway, in the morning he woke up after a bombardment, and all the houses were gone but his. Everything was gone, but the house he was in, and he told me that, and I'm like, wow, that's I don't know what I thought at that time. I have no idea. What do you say to that? But the stories he told me really captured my attention.